guys are all here. I hope you found a place to sit. It can get a little iffy. Apparently, I don't know if I spit when I speak, but like this whole section is safe. If you're here or here, you're not safe, but apparently you're safe. We are in week 2 of this current series called Masculinity, Unmasking Satan's Plan for Men. Let me just do a real recap of what we learned last week. Last week, what we learned was that as a man goes, the family goes. As the family goes, an entire nation will go. Satan's goal for men in America, especially, and that's what I'm going to speak of as our context here in the United States, is to weaken men so that we are no longer able to protect, preserve, and provide for the families, and therefore we will not be able to provide for our nation. Satan does not care about the man who is able to stand on his own as a lone wolf, some alpha man. Satan is not concerned with men who stand on their own. But if this man is able to care for his family, then the entire nation becomes a little stronger. And so what Satan desires to do, just like the lions do out in the wild, how many of you have ever watched cheetahs and things like that? They hunt the prey. Which ones do they go after? Do they go after the strong, big, strong elk? Do they go after the big, strong ox? Which one do they go for? They go for the weak one, the one with the little gimp. They go for the antelope who's either smaller or not as strong. Or the older ones, that's right. Why does a lion, let's just talk about lions because that's my favorite animal in the entire wilderness and I've studied them greatly. Why would a lion pick out the elderly or the limping weak? Why? The elderly animals cannot run as fast. The children aren't wise enough to know what to do. They're not educated enough and experienced enough. And the gimpy ones simply can't move effectively in defense. So what do? A pride of lions, it's usually the females that hunt. And what they'll do is they'll surround an entire group. They're far outnumbered, right? Far outnumbered. You ever seen a herd of antelope? And 3 female lions are in charge now. One comes around the side, one comes around another side, and one comes up the middle. Why do they do that? Because the plan for the lion when hunting antelope is to isolate one at a time. If they can isolate you, you are done. When you stand alone, you are done. And so many times, there are so many men out there who have been betrayed, and I talked about this last week. They've been beaten down by society. You're not good enough, you never will be, and everything that you do is not appreciated, and you will never measure up to who you actually want to be. We're not going to give you any credit. What you're doing is what is expected, so don't ask for a congratulation. When men are beaten down this way, what do? They isolate, don't they? Now, if the enemy can get you to isolate yourself, you are cooked. You may feel like you're standing strong. You may feel like you're marching along on your own power. And in a sense, you are, but in a greater sense, you're being greatly deceived. Because no man can stand alone. But the culture will tell you to do so, won't it? The culture will tell you, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you don't need anybody else, and there's something to standing on your own and doing things on your own to a degree. But a man without a tribe is either defeated man or a soon-to-be defeated man. Well, today I want to talk about one of the strategies that Satan has as he isolates men, and he seeks to isolate men. If you're taking notes, what I'm going to talk about today is redefining man. One of the strategies of Satan is to redefine what a man is. The principle is this: Satan seeks to redefine what a man is But God seeks to refine what a man is. Let me say that again, because they sound a lot alike, but they're completely different. Satan seeks to redefine what a man is at his very core, biologically. And if he can do that, you are beat. But Satan seeks to redefine what a man is, and God seeks to refine what a man is. Well, we've been redefining terms for years. How many of you out there are ambidextrous? Who knows what ambidextrous means? What does it mean, Greg?
Be able to do both hands at the same time.
Both hands at the same time. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's a good thing, right? You're not just limited to one arm. You can do things with both hands. Did you know that that's not the definition of ambidextry? It was not the original definition. We've redefined it. Do you know what it used to mean? It means someone who takes bribes with both hands. So the next time you run into somebody who's ambidextrous, you got to question things about this person, right? What about the word artificial? What does that mean? Go ahead. What's that? It does. Artificial does not mean aliens, but thank you for that. What does it mean? Sit up. You're not in your room. Artificial means man-made, okay. Or fake, right? It's fake. Like, you ever heard some artificial fruit? Anybody ever accidentally take a bite of artificial fruit before? I did. Tastes great. You know what the word artificial fruit, you know, in the little wooden bowls. You never seen that? It's just for decoration. Men don't do that, but, you know. Do you know what artificial originally meant? The original definition. Full of artistic and technical skill. You're artificial. So the next time somebody calls you artificial, artificial, take it as a compliment. What about the word awful? Oh, that's awful. Oh, that's awful. You should have seen our pond in the front yard, and our daughter was cleaning it out and got out of it. Anybody know what superfood is? That green drink that used to be called superfood? She looked like they had dumped superfood all over. It was awful. You know what the original definition of awful is? Commanding awe. Wow. It was full of awe. But we've redefined that, haven't we? That's not what it means anymore. I would bring up the word defecate. You know what defecate used to mean? You know what the original definition of defecate is? To purify something. Could you get any further apart? No. You're going to like this, Josh. Do you know what the original definition of girl, the original English definition of girl was? A child of either gender. Oh, we've come full circle. No. A moment. Just a moment. The original definition of a moment used to be 90 seconds. Exactly. Not 89 seconds, 90 seconds. What do you consider a moment today? Nervous. The original definition of nervous was strong. Terrific. That's terrific. Do you know what this is crazy. Do you know what the original definition of terrific is? It's causing terror. Horrific. Definitions have been changed. This is not a new construct here in America or even in our culture, even in humanity. It's been going on for a long time. Like I said, redefining terms is nothing new. But these examples are not the redefining of facts, but these are subjective social constructs. Okay? None of which are actually factually objective truths. So you see in your notes here, I put this because these two can be completely opposite of one another. Factual, objective truth. Okay? I'm going to give you 3 or 4 examples of what I'm talking about. Number 1 is this. How about this? Gravity. Gravity. You can call gravity oxygen. You can call gravity whatever you want. The objective truth is this. 10 out of 10 times I drop my glasses, gravity is in full effect, right? Is that disputable? It's a scientific fact. But what if I said, you know what, the reason I dropped my glasses and they hit the ground was because of oxygen? Does it matter what I've called it? You can label it anything you want, but it is what it is. Please stop. Gravity is gravity. It will never be oxygen. It will never be sunshine. It will never be coffee, as much as I'd like it to be. It is an objective, real truth. To call it oxygen, I don't care if everybody in the country called it oxygen. That would be a subjective construct. It means I believe gravity to be oxygen. There's nothing about the truth that says it is oxygen, but I'm going to believe it's oxygen anyway. Are you allowed to do that? Sure. But that is your mental opinion. Excuse me. Did I say that? Let me give you another one really quick. This is a hot topic. Sex and gender. Let me give you the factual, objective truth. Every human alive either has an XX chromosome makeup or what? XY. That is a factual, objective, scientific truth. The subjective construct, however, is that there are many people who have XX chromosomes that say, no, I'm XY. I'm this. I believe this. I feel this. Factual, objective truth versus a social construct, subjective construct. There are two sexes. You don't need the Bible for this. Pick up a biology book. There's male, there's female. Those are factual truths. God says, I created them what? Male and what else? And what else? And what else? Have you seen the results of men and women's sports? And many women approve of this. Women, because of they're different than men and men are different than women, they have their own bathrooms, do they not? They have their own locker rooms, do they not? They have their own clothing section, do they not? They have their own. They have voting rights, do they not? Now, so many women agree with men can pretend to be women that all of the rights we've given them, you might as well throw them right out the window because now men have infiltrated that too. And they've said, yes, come on in, you can be one of us. And at the same time, they're breaking cheekbones of women in the ring. At the same time, they're taking scholarships away from biological women. You know, there's and this is, you can look this up. Serena Williams, somebody said Serena Williams is just as good of a tennis player as any man out there. I think she played against the 217th ranked college player. I may have the details wrong there, something like that. He smoked her. 217th, not even a pro. We have the same kinds of examples with soccer teams. Do you know the women's Olympic soccer team got smeared by an all-star high school team, if I'm not mistaken. Why? Because women are worse? No, we're just different. Let me ask you a question. How many women have you heard of trying to play in the NBA or the NFL? How many women do you know that are trying to get into a men's locker room? Pretty one-sided, isn't it? You ever wonder why that is? Where are all the women trying to get into men's locker rooms? This is not just isolated to individual rights. This is a slippery, slippery slope that leads to the satanic destruction of men, families, and our nation. I'm going to get to that in just a second. Here's another one, age. Since in this country, it's quite approved that Greg can identify as a woman, my wife can identify as a man, and who cares, guys? Come on, just let people be. You must pretend along with it. Did you know that they're trying to pass a bill right now, I think it's in Michigan, that says if you don't call somebody by the right pronoun, it's a felony. Folks, this stuff is happening. What does it have to do with Jesus? I'm going to get to it. You can choose your gender, but here's something else. But you can't choose your age. Let me give you an example. If I said that I identify as a 12-year-old Asian girl, you guys are you're looking at me like I'm insane. If I told you I now identify as a 12-year-old Asian girl, do you know what would be said back to me? You can't be Asian and you can't be 12. Well, why not? Did you notice that no one would say anything about me being a female, but they would say you can't be Asian and you can't be 12? Well, wait a minute. Why is that? This is why. Because your gender, your sex, is the most important definitive identification you have. And if Satan can blur that line, he doesn't need any other lines to blur. If you can change your sex, and you can't, but if you can, and you get other people to accept that and to cave into that, all of a sudden everything changes. He doesn't need to change your age. He doesn't need to change your race. He's got the human being fractured at the core of who God made you to be, your purpose in this life, and your role in this life. Our culture is picking and choosing which objective truths are allowed to be redefined. And by the way, right on the heels of redefining what a man is redefining good and evil. If you can redefine what a man is, what a woman is, redefining right after that is going to be the redefining of what is good and what is considered evil. By the way, it's already happening. I want to give you one example of that. Has anybody ever heard of pedophiles, people who go around hurting children in many, many different ways we won't get into? Do you know what the appropriate term surfacing is now for those people who go around committing those evil crimes? Minor attracted persons. MAPS. To call them a pedophile is just unfair now. You're going to hurt their feelings. They are now to be addressed as minor attracted persons. Are they minor attracted persons? Yes. But you can no longer publicly recognize the appropriately labeled evil that they commit. You must just, well, yes, they did that, but that's because they are a minor attracted person. We must be patient with them. They should not be in prison, etc., etc., etc. Now that Satan has fractured and blurred the lines between what a man is and a woman is, and he has started on what's good and what's not long time ago, he's redefining what good is and what evil is. Let me give you one last example. Race classification. Race classification. Did you know, I don't know if you know this, did you know that the idea of race is not a biblical concept? Did you know that? I'm not talking about nationality, I'm talking about race. It's not a social, it's not a biblical concept. It is a social construct. Well, you can't prove that, Jamie. There's lots of different races. No, there's not. There's one. It's called the human race. Can I prove it to you? Can I prove it to you? Because I didn't know this till I studied it. I thought, oh, there's all kinds of races out there. No, there's really not. There's just one race. It's called a human race. And the way that we do race here in America especially is a social construct. Okay, I'll prove it. And I won't even use the Bible for it. Can I use biology? Can I use a factual, objective truth that you can find in any biology book? Google it. Even Google will tell you. Do you know the difference between you and me, a black guy, an Asian guy, a Vietnamese woman, a French, Spanish, Hispanic? You know what the difference is between all of us? 0.2% difference genetically between any one of us on earth. 0.2%. And by the way, that 0.2% is melanin. You know what melanin is? It gives you the color of the skin. The more melanin you have in your body, the darker you are. Heard a black guy the other day, he said, hey, I got more than you. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, I got more melanin than you. I said, well, you only got 0.2% more melanin than me. Did you know that color comes from melanin and we all have it just in different degrees? Not that some of us are this color or that color. Did you know that biologically and scientifically, we are all different shades of the same color? If we are all different shades of the same color, and it's just a spectrum, like a rainbow, then what is race? What's the difference between a black man and a white man and a Hispanic man? What's the difference? Biologically speaking, melanin. So why did we socially construct race? To overpower groups and to control other groups. Every sin on earth you can take all the way back to power and control, the P&C. There's not a sin available that you and I have ever committed or will ever commit or anyone will ever commit that does not contain the variables of power and control. We are all of the race of Adam. That's what the Bible teaches. God's love is not determined by the amount of melanin you have. And your love for one another should not be determined by the amount of melanin another has. Satan has fractured objective, factual truth with the subjective constructs, the social constructs of sex, age, and race. These are the three things that he blurs the lines and redefines the lines so that you as a man are fractured, therefore your family is fractured, therefore your church is fractured, your community, and eventually the country. And like I said last week, if you haven't noticed, if you just look around, you'll probably recognize that our country is in spiritual shambles. Why do you think that is? Well, obviously sin. Well, how has Satan done this? What are the tools that he uses? He can't just deceive. Well, he can, but what are the tools? Satan uses the unbelievers who have adopted the ungodly political agendas of the culture, which was conceived by Satan himself and birthed by the ungodly. Satan had this plan, but he could not achieve this plan on his own, so he found people that hate God. In fact, the founders of, let's just say, I guys pick any group. The three female founders of Black Lives Matter said they want to deconstruct what is known as the family, and they hate God. Look it up. It's a well-known fact. They said this. And that's just one of the groups. I'm not picking on that group. They're all like this. They're ungodly. Well, where did he begin? Where did Satan begin to redefine man? You would think that he just started out redefining man. No. He took, and if I may say this, and not in a bragging type of way on Satan, but this is brilliantly manipulative, which is exactly how he operates. How many of you know that Satan is a master manipulator, master deceiver, master liar, master planner? He's been around this earth longer than any human, and he's been around as long as the most powerful angel in heaven. He has been around. He knows much. We're not to fear him, but we do need to recognize who our enemy is. In order to redefine man, he started by redefining women. He came through the side door. In doing this, he blurs the previously and clear God-ordained identity of women, obscuring it from an objective truth and making it a subjective reality. Subjective reality is not true reality. Subjective reality is what you believe to be true. If Bud Dodson walked out and said, "Oh, look, the sky is green." I learned in psychology, I got a degree in psychology, I learned that one's perception is one's reality. If I believe it, it's true to me. Does that mean it's true factually? No, it means it's true to you subjectively, but not objectively. And so what Satan has done to get to the man is he went through the woman. Wait a minute. Does that sound familiar to you? Does that sound like Genesis chapter 3, which we talked about last week? Did Satan approach the man in the garden? No, he did not. He approached Eve. The man was there, and we talked about this. The man was weak. He did nothing. He sat and watched it happen. He folded. Satan is doing the same thing today. His tactics have not changed. You can go out in this world, go to downtown Gresham, go somewhere and ask somebody who is not a Christian, what is a woman? Did you know? You know what? They can't tell you. They can't tell you what a woman is. Even the women can't tell you what a woman is. Well, it's anybody who decides to be, but what is that? Like, what is a woman? Well, if you want to be a woman, no. What is it? Define it for me. They cannot. Why? The Bible tells us why. The God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers. What we've known for 4,000 to 5,000, 6,000 years as an XX or an XY, we know what an XX is, but now the XY is, I don't know what it is anymore. Satan has caused this country, by and large, to replace factual, objective truth with subjective social constructs. Satan has caused America to switch places with those things. Now you can't possibly know what is true. Now what's true? Well, whatever's true to you. If Satan can redefine what a woman is, he can indirectly redefine what a man is and everything about him. Satan seeks to redefine what a man is, but God seeks to refine what a man is, not change what a man is. So what's God's definition of a man? That's a good question, right? So what's God's definition? Because every man must stand on that. At least every godly man should stand on this. And it's simply this. This is a man of faithful obedience to God. Every single thing flows from this. If a man is faithfully obedient to God, the rest of his life will pan out fine. He will know who he is. He will know his role. Because remember the principle, and I've said this before. Some men say, I just don't know what to do. When you know who you are, then you will know what to do. When you know who you are, then you will know what to do. And we get that before we get that switched around. We try to figure out what we do so we can find out who we are. Oh, I do this kind of work, therefore I'm that. No. And Satan got us twisted that way too. You find out who you are, then you'll know what to do. Let me ask you this, rhetorically. It's a challenge question for every man. And women, you can take this too. Are you a faithful, obedient person to God? Are you a faithful, obedient man or woman to God? Is that the very core of everything you think, everything you say, everything you do? Not that you're perfect. I'm certainly not. You can ask her about that. I'm not. But here's the thing. Is your life and every decision centered around what would God have me do? I'm in a hard time. We can't make ends meet this month. You know what? We're going to do what? We're going to trust in God and keep working hard. Do you say, we're going to trust God and just sit here and hopefully money will come in the mail? Yeah, your lights are going to get shut off, probably. Or you can say, you know what? We need more money. I'm just going to go work. Not giving God a mind, not giving him any faith. Just say, look, I'll take care of it myself. He's obviously, I'll go do it myself. You don't partner with God. You say, I'm just going to go do it myself. You're off. A man of faithful obedience to God. That's what a man is. Let me give you 6 characteristics of this. Number 1, it's a man of determination. A man of faithful obedience is a man of determination. He is determined to have faith in God. He is determined to do the right thing, and he will do it regardless of the risk or the consequences. He will do it. If God says, run your head through a brick wall, he has faith that God's going to put a hole in it. Thank you, Charles Stanley, for that analogy. Secondly is this, it's a man of respect. Does he have respect for himself, and does he have respect for others? A man of faithful obedience is a man of respect. It goes along with that. He respects himself, he respects his spouse, he respects those around him, even though they disagree, maybe even strongly, but there is a level of healthy respect. Doesn't mean you agree. This means you respect the fact that they have the freedom to think whatever they want. Also, it's a man of integrity. A man of faithful obedience is a man of integrity. He is going to do the right thing, if at all possible, every single time. Again, no matter the risk, no matter the consequences, you're going to do what God calls you to do, and you're going to let him sort out the consequences. Period. And a lot of times, you're going to get challenged, guys. Ladies, too, you get challenged by this, and that God's going to call you to do the right thing, and it's going to cost you big time. You going to do it now? You can cut the corner, save yourself all the trouble, save yourself thousands of dollars, save yourself X, Y, and Z. You're going to do the right thing. May cost yourself a best friend. You're going to do the right thing. A faithful, obedient man of God, he will always seek to do the right thing. Integrity. Also, it's a man of victory. A man of victory. I used to play basketball with a guy, and he did not care if we won or lost the game. Guy got participation trophies his whole life, obviously. Oh, you came in last. Oh, but we want you to feel good. He'll like, here's a trophy. He was one of those guys. Good guy. He had no killer instinct. He didn't want to win. He just went out to play for fun. Nothing wrong with that. But this is a different kind of league, okay? He didn't want to win. Victory was not something he even cared about. Was he a strong link or a weak link on our team, do you think? Weak. Weak link. A man of faithful obedience is a man who is bent on victory. I'll give you an example of a 14-year-old bent on victory, and you know him. Anybody ever heard the story of David and Goliath? You think he went in for a participation trophy? What about Moses, Abraham? You go through the Bible and you find me a hero that was in it just for the experience. They didn't want to win. Yeah, hey, we'll see what happens. A man bent on victory is an intentional man. He is in it to win it for himself, for his family, for his church, for his community, and for his country. When you sign up for the military in this country, I don't know about today, but let's go back a little ways. Everybody here is old enough to remember our old military. You know why they went in? Do you think they joined so they can get a degree? Nothing wrong with that, but is that why they joined? No, they were protectors. And if anybody stepped to the United States and threatened the freedom that we have, threatened the godliness, the morals that we have in this country, it's the greatest country in the world, they were going to have a fight on their hands. And they would die fighting for something they could never even see, the future. As a man, if you are bent on victory, you're faithfully obedient to God, and you're bent on victory, many times you're fighting for something you will never see the fruit of. And that is a prolonged blessing for your children and your grandchildren. How many of you have heard stories passed down from your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents? You still hear those stories. Some good stories, some shameful stories. Everybody's got them. Man, I could talk 3 weeks on victory because I know so many men that just walk in defeat. I understand why. I'm not judging. I understand why. This is why we need one another. A man of faithful obedience is also a man of endurance. He will not give up. He is not a quitter. This has to be developed over time. Endurance is only, hear me clearly, if you have a husband or a male friend or somebody that you know is a male that is struggling, he's just quitting, he can't do it anymore, don't shame them. And don't call them names and judge them from afar. Go over, put your arm around them, underneath their armpit, and lift them up and help carry them, because endurance is a process of continual failure. No one can endure this culture without failing and then getting back up. Failing and then getting back up. Failing and then getting back up. What happens in that process, and if you're failing now, be encouraged. It's part of the process of you becoming a man who can endure. So don't knock yourself down. Don't think I'm knocking you down. Look, it's part of the process. The key to endurance is not failure, by the way. You know what it is? It's getting up again. It's getting up again. I'll tell you right now, I know a guy named Jeff. He's one of my top 5 favorite people on the planet. And he had a stroke. You guys know him. He had a stroke a bit ago. And this guy, he's a bit limited, but I tell you what, he gets up every day. He gets up every day. He gets up every day. I don't know that I would have what it takes to keep going. The guy has endurance. He gets up every day. And sometimes, I'm not talking about Jeff, but sometimes, and this goes for ladies too, sometimes just getting up in the morning and getting dressed is difficult because you're so beat down and worn down. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, I was on a top bunk. I got a bad back. I'm 50. Crawling up and crawling down. Can't do this. The world is telling my kids to blur the lines between what's a man and a woman. They're teaching this stuff in schools. They've got litter boxes. Some kids have leashes. They have to be walked from class to class because they subjectively feel like a cat. That's what our kids are learning at school. They're learning to accept this in school. That what once was considered mental illness or evil, I'm not saying they're the same thing, or evil, is now considered appropriate. What was considered as hurting children is now, wait a minute, the person who hurt the children, no, they're just minor attractive people. You must endure through this culture and teach your kids right from wrong and re-educate them from what they're learning in the public. The last thing is this, and in my opinion, the most vital part of this. A man of faithful obedience to God is a man of no fear. Like endurance, this takes failure to develop, not success. Every man is afraid of something, whether it's losing your marriage, losing your children, losing your job, whatever the case may be, losing respect. There's all kinds of fears out there. I get that. I have them too. But a man who's faithfully obedient to God understands who he's obedient to. He is God. God is on your side, He is with you, and He is for you. There's absolutely nothing that He's called you to do or to become that He will not fulfill His end of. He will work in cooperation with you, and He will protect you. You look at someone like David, you look at Daniel, you look at all these men in the Bible, and I will show you one thing. Yes, there were times they were afraid, but what did they do in their fear? Did they back away? Did they run away? What did they do? They let fear push them forward. You know what we call that? Courage. I tell my son all the time, we pray for it all the time. I pray that God puts the courage in you so that when you're afraid, you can step forward still. When you're afraid and you're surrounded by a mob that's calling you a bigot, misogynist because you believe in man and woman and that's all that there is, and you will get that if you speak out. You know that, right? If you walk out your faith and you talk out your faith, you are going to be ostracized. You are going to be persecuted. Are you willing to take that hit? And I ask that question because of this. The reason our country is in the spot we're in now is because us men, when all this was going on, we just said, I said last week, and I don't think it's controversial, I think it's pretty clear. The state of our country today, it's not the liberals' fault, Democrats, Republicans, Independents. It's not the women's fault. It's the men's fault. What men? The weak, passive, triggered, afraid, easily killed, easily manipulated, easily buckled men. How many of you see right now in our country droves of men beginning to stand up and say, okay, this is enough? Is anybody seeing that, or is it just me? It's coming. The wave is coming. Had we done that in the beginning, we would not be where we are today. But that's nonetheless, we can't get hung up on that, right? Past is past. What matters is today. And my question to all of you men here and all of you listening out there is, are you going to be a faithful, obedient man of God? And by the way, everything that I just told you, the man of determination, respect, integrity, victory, endurance, and no fear, you know what that actually spells? It spells driven. Look at it. Read it down just like that. It spells driven. A man of faithful obedience is driven. Have you ever tried to stop somebody who was driven? Male or female. You ever tried to stop somebody who was focused and driven? You're not going to do it. It can't be done unless the person drops in either faithfulness or obedience. And by the way, scripturally, you cannot separate faith from obedience. Did you know that? Faith without deeds is dead. Deeds without faith don't even occur. You have to have faith that what you're doing is working, that it's going to work, that God is going to bless it, that God is going to give you the victory. You can't separate faith from obedience. Man, I'm going to have to finish this next time. I wanted to get into Numbers chapter 13 and 14 with Caleb and the spies. This is a perfect example of what a man should be, not only for himself, for his family, for his community, for his entire nation of Israel. We're going to get into that next week. So your homework, didn't expect to go, oh man, I really messed that up. Not really. Next week, we're going to get into Numbers chapter 13 and 14. Please read that on your own. You're going to really enjoy this story. Look for what the characteristics are in Caleb and what he did and what he didn't do. Father, we thank you so much for who you are. We thank you, Lord God, that you've given us the blueprint of what a real man is. Father, I pray that every man would hold on to this definition of who he is. Father, we thank you that you want us to be a faithful, obedient man of God. I pray that we would be driven in every way, that we would not falter or fail. It's just so hard with this culture we live in right now where everything, all the lines seem to be blurred, and it's hard to know. We know where to stand, but we just don't know how to stand. Father, don't let us be deceived, God. Protect our minds and our hearts. We love you, God, and we thank you. You're so good to us. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, guys, there's coffee and snacks in the back. Enjoy yourself. It's hot outside. Next week, try to wear something a little more appropriate, okay? It is 4th of July. Watch your fingers, okay? Follow the law. Don't do things you're not supposed to do.